Welcome back, New World. Sethphir here, and man, I need a new intro or something. Does anyone have some ideas? Because I feel like I'm saying the same thing every time. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. We'll try to get some little different mix up here. But first and foremost, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to everybody that has been subscribing and liking my videos. We've been exploding over the past couple days, and honestly, it's just great to see. Glad you guys are getting some value out of these things, and I'll continue to keep making these guides and just trying to share the New World knowledge. So today's video, we are going to be talking about groups, the best group combinations. We are also going to be talking about the best duo and solo or triple leveling pair combination for weapons, because this is kind of a video that a lot of people have requested. I know it's kind of easy to go solo. You pick your weapon, whatever you want to play. But let's say you're playing with a friend or a partner or something like that, or you got a group of friends. So I wanted to kind of break that down and help give you guys a great idea as to what you could kind of aim for that would give you some successful results in a tournament. So as you can see here, we kind of got a group, and we got into a big PvP scuffle out in front of the one of the low-level elite farming zones, so we're just trying to help hold on for our lives here while we try to deal with a lot of these things. But it's really fun to get into these like group leveling spots, especially when PvP is involved. You can get a lot of experience, actually, just quite honestly, fighting players, and it seems to be pretty good. So there's tons of reasons to group up in New World, and that ranges from dungeons to corrupted portal rifts to elite farming locations, and even just to doing normal quests, right? Because there's no real penalty for grouping up. Monsters don't really give like XP like that, right? Like it's not like other games where monsters give a bunch of XP when you kill them. It's just very little, and a lot of times when you have like elite things, it's generally really good to kind of group up and share that experience with everybody. It just lets you get faster kill times and whatnot. So we'll go ahead and break it down into a few parts. We will talk about the best duo leveling pair first. Then we will talk about the best triple or trio leveling pair. And then after that, we will discuss the best group composition in my opinion, right? So all this grain of salt, it's not the gospel, the exact best, but is just what I've learned in New World. So we'll discuss that. What all of these are going to be aimed at, like launch day, leveling up, and just kind of getting in there and really making the most of that first day or two, and also whatever else you go on forward with. So we'll jump into duos. So duos. The best duo combination, in my opinion, is going to involve a melee player and a healer, and that's probably pretty obvious. We'll dive into the melee player here. So the melee player is going to be, I think you're going to have some options, but I think you're going to want heavy armor for sure. In my opinion, the best weapon right now for melee is Great Axe, just because of its stats being like highly up there. It's quite OP, to be fair. It also has a lot of built-in great mechanisms like life leech. Your like left clicks seem to have like aim assists for some reason, and they kind of like hone in on the target and lunge you forward. So it's just like a really easy weapon to play, like quality of life, right? Like you cannot go wrong with the Great Axe. Just left click away and occasionally press some buttons, right? And you're pretty solid to go. So it also has like a really high damage ceiling, and also a lot of movement speed just built into the kit for free. So really, it's hard to like go wrong with all these great additives in the skill trees there. And this would be with the left side skill tree. I played around with the right side, the one that has the maelstrom and stuff, but it doesn't seem quite the same. I think the best combination of skills is Reap, Charge, and oh shoot, what was the last one? Gravity Well, because that's a nice initiator thing, but all the passives on the left side are just insane value. So I would definitely go Great Axe as your first weapon for this, in my opinion. And I think your second weapon could be a toss-up between the hammer, the Warhammer, and the Sword and Shield. The Warhammer has actually a lot of damage. I think a lot of people sleep on this weapon, but if you can connect to something and hit specifically the Mighty Gavel ability with the Justice for All at the end of it. This thing hits so hard. Oh my gosh, it can just flatten some monsters. In addition to this, it has armor break on one of its abilities, which gives a Ren debuff to the target, which allows everyone in your party to deal more damage to that target, including yourself. And this is something important because from what I saw, the Rens seem to stack, so you can lower this monster's defense. So wherever you go, whether that's a dungeon or elite mob spot or just a regular mob, you're going to be permanently debuffing this mob. And it's going to be really good. The other option that you could probably go is that Sword and Shield. It does have a little bit of a Ren debuff too, but not as much. You will get a baseline sword ability if you really go damage that will increase all party members' damage by 10%. It's not bad, but what it allows you to really do is be a tank, right? And being a tank, you can also do with the Warhammer because it does have like some skills that have taunt gem allocations into it within the skill line. You can also do it with a few other weapons, I believe. So you don't actually have to be a sword shield to be a tank. It's just probably the best since it has a lot of great blocking mechanisms and just a lot of quality of life things built around tanking. So that setup is going to allow you to be a front line constantly for your partner, which I think is going to be very, very important. And we'll touch up at the end of it why this pair makes such a great combination, but it's pretty standard in every MMO, right? Like tank healer, ooh, nothing new. So, everyone's seen this before. The second part of this and the duo pair is going to be the second player, which will be the life staff player. You're going to need life staff for sure. Life Staff's just a great healing weapon. It's OP, it heals for ridiculous amounts, and you're just going to be able to keep your tanky partner alive, along with doing a lot of damage. People sleep on the Life Staff damage. It is no joke. It's hard. I think you saw in some of those encounters that Life Staff users just auto-attacking me for like 400 or 500 health when I have like 2,000 health. Like, what is that? Come on, get that out of here. But yeah, it's just great weapon all around. You cannot go wrong. Some of the standout abilities for this would probably be Beacon, Sacred Ground, I believe, and then the third one is kind of your choice, but I think Orbit Protection is a really nice skill. So the second weapon with that, in my opinion, would be Ice Gauntlet, and the reason for that is it allows you to get a pylon, which you can place down that will auto-attack while you're doing life staff things, and you can get the Builder Tree, which basically makes sure that pylon is up pretty much all the time as it extends its own life by 1 second every time it attacks, and you can have it activated and going while you have the life staff out, so you can just focus on healing. The other good go-to is Ice Block, which will make you invulnerable. You can regenerate your mana and clear all your debuffs, and also, like, if you ever get aggro as a healer, you could just be invincible for like 10 seconds and no harm done, right? So this is a really, really good weapon to do. So that is probably the best combo. You could play around with other off weapons, but I don't really think that anything outshines the Ice Gauntlet for a secondary weapon for life staff. So that is the duo thing, and the reason why that's so strong, again, you can create your group for anything you want. Like, once you do the storyline, it's going to ask you to go to Amrine. If you say, hey, tank healer looking for dungeon, looking for 3 DPS, you're going to get 10,000 tells instantly. People are going to be begging you, paying you gold to take them into Amrine, right? And this is just the scenario you want, because you can do anything in the game with this combo, and that's the best part about it. So I highly encourage you to grab your partner, convince them to play, or maybe they're already playing. That's fantastic. You got a great partner there. Grab a friend, have you guys pair up, whatever you want to do. This is going to be the way to go. So next we'll talk about trios. Trios, you would have the same combo from duos. However, the trio player would be a raw damage dealer player. I will say that in this video I'm playing mage, but mage is weak while leveling. You may want to consider that. It doesn't really come online until you get about the 250, I think it's 200 or 250 int mark. Sorry, I forgot for a second, but it allows you to get 10 mana on dodge, and that's really where it starts to shine, as you will not have mana problems, but you will have severe mana problems, especially while leveling up the mage weapons. So it's more of an end game build, and again, I'm not knocking mage in any way. I plan to play it. I will play it, but I think that mage really shines with max gear in the end game level, So that's probably the way to go for that. So if you want a damage dealer here, in my opinion, the highest damage dealer that you can possibly get is somebody playing bow, playing rapier, playing hatchet. Like, these weapons do tremendous amounts of just auto attack damage straight up. Not to mention that their abilities seem to be really good and damage oriented, right? So these are a lot of the dex weapons, so that it kind of makes sense in that category. You can also just substitute this with another player using Great Axe, because again, Great Axe very, very strong. But if that second player is using Great Axe, you may not want to consider Warhammer. I would strongly go with Spear. And I think that this may be the best. Another Great Axe user, but also has a spear in the secondary. You could also go bow spear, and I think this is really good as well. Because the reason you may want this for the third player is that spear does do quite a bit of damage as well. But mostly, it has a very, very powerful rend debuff that is going to be 15% on anybody when you hit this skill, which has a relatively low cooldown, but it also increases to 30% when you hit anybody below half health. So the shred on bosses, the shred on elite mobs, in terms of, just what you're doing, is going to be very, very, very high, right? So you're going to be able to do a lot of damage to anyone pretty much, and you're going to buff up your party's damage. And this does stack with the Warhammer debuff. I tested it, and as far as I could see, it was still increasing the damage. So you're going to get the Warhammer debuff from the Armor Breaker skill, and then you're also going to get the debuff from the Rend ability in the spear tree on the right side. I think it's called Perforate, and I may have butchered that word, but I tried to do it as best as I could. So yeah, that's the one, and it definitely is very powerful. So if by doing this, you see what you're doing, you're setting yourself up to where whenever you do a group, it's going to be highly successful, because you're doing a lot of damage. You already have the healer, you already have the tank possibly, and you have the ability to buff your entire party's damage up by a lot. And this is going to be really critical. So don't be afraid to level multiple weapons, right? Like, if you're the hammer and the great axe guy, level up the sword too. Why not? Like, start tanking in the dungeons. And this game is great because it lends itself to allow the players to level up as many weapons as they want. And that's the beauty of New World. You don't have to make another character to switch class. You just put on the weapon and go, right? It's all about the gear and the stats. Like, you may have to respec your attributes, but that's not a big deal at all. Okay, so getting into the last part of this video, and that is going to be the group composition. So for the group composition, I would definitely recommend the 3 that we had before, but now let's add 2 more, right? So the 2 more that we would add would probably be just raw damage users, because at this point, we are pretty much covering all debuffs in the game. We're covering tanking, we're covering healing. We just want raw damage dealers. So people with like bow rapier would be really good. Even having a mage starting at like level 23 onward, like, it might be a little rough at the start, but in Amorine, having a mage is good because you can do a lot of AoE damage. So what you can do is you can have your tank run ahead with good heals, and you can do a massive pull, group them all up and AoE them down. And that's where mages do shine, is in that AoE setting. It's a little hard to manage mana and like getting from mob to mob as compared to the other classes as a mage, when you don't have those like high level mage talents, right? It gets easier over time. But if you're willing to like bring that in, then you can kind of that mage will really start carrying you right around like level 45. Like, he'll start to really take into effect. And then when you get level 60 in the end game, where people are just like, man, can we get a mage for AoE in the dungeon to make this go really quick? You already know a guy, right? So it's going to be good to maybe invest in that. It might not be a bad idea. There's tons of other weapons that do other damage types as well. So just, if it's not on this list, again, grain of salt, my personal opinion. I could be wrong. You could be right. Try out what you want to try out. That's the best part about New World. Everyone should play the way that they want to play. So in summary, for that final group, I would probably go with a mage. I would go with a dex damage dealer. Make sure that you have the trio trinity before, where you have somebody that has that spear for that armor rend, and then you have the pure tank who also has the hammer for the armor end, and then you have the healer, right? That's the big go-to there. Also, side note on the healer, I did forget a little bit. You could take Ice Shower, which does have a 10% rend, but you like have to get in the melee range, and it's a little funky. Maybe not do this. It's really up to you. There are a couple of other small rends on certain places, but they don't last very long. So I think there was one rend in the game that was like the trapper in the musket where it had like it lasted for 3 seconds, but it was a 20% armor rend, so that could be interesting to play around with if you want to do some musket stuff. But it's really up to you. Again, I would encourage you to like kind of experiment with this and see if that works for you. Like if you're a musket player and you want to do that, so by all means go for it. So hopefully this helps everybody kind of get an idea of group compositions and just get you a better balanced group so that you can play with your company members, you can play with your friends, and you guys can be highly successful in all content aspects of the game, especially while leveling up. We will make another guide eventually for the best in-game composition, but for now that is to be tested. There's a lot of things that we need to figure out, so we'll hold off on that one. We'll wait till launch and we'll see the actual the data numbers and all that stuff, and we'll go from there. All right. Well, thanks for your time, everyone. I do appreciate you watching this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you found this guide helpful, and we will catch you next time. Have a good day.